क्या हो गया? क्या हो गया सर?
क्या
Yes, Metro.
Hello. Hello.
Good afternoon, all. I am Archana from CSC department, and I welcome you all on behalf of Geeta Engineering College. And it gives me immense pleasure to welcome our speaker for today's event, Mr. Anand Goyal. And he is a person having expertise in we are having services in your career-oriented services we are having there. Presently, he is working in sorry for the interruption. There's some technical issue. Uh, we are having him with us to share his experience. Presently, he is working in Pyramid and as a performance engineer. And he has earlier worked in the MNCs like Accenture, Sopra, Xavier, IHS, etc. And I take pleasure to invite him for this wonderful enlightening session. Please, Anand sir, please, we welcome you all.
Thank you, Archana ma'am. So it was very nice being a part of this webinar. I would at first like to thank all of you for joining up this webinar, and a special thanks to Dr. Archana Sandhu and the Geeta Engineering Management. So this is also an opportunity for me to be in front of you guys and just present myself as a professional rather than being a student. So I just want you guys not to switch on your cameras. I would also like you people to mute up. So going forward, I would need this session to be an interactive one. So you can stop me anywhere you want, and we can have a discussion. So as we know the topic of this webinar, which is campus to corporate. So this webinar is actually kept to make you people comfortable when you go from your campus to corporate life. So when I was a young kid like you are, like you people are as of now. So I used to have a lot of questions in my mind. So please do not hesitate asking me anything, because I have already lived that life and I might be the right person to answer you well. So before we just go into the question, I would like to have an introduction about myself. So my name is Anand Goyal and I work for Pyramid as a performance engineer. So I have expertise over 12 tools, and like that is something which can be easily identified from my YouTube channel. So going forward, there is a question from me to you. Does anyone know what exactly is the meaning of performance engineer? Anyone, please? So I see a strength of about 85 students. I expect at least an answer from any one of you, right? What exactly do you understand is a performance engineer? Any answer, please? So no answer? No one knows about it. Okay, so that's not an issue. So I see that like we have a strength of students coming out from second year, third year, and fourth year. So fourth year are the ones who will be stepping up to the corporate life like just after a few months. So let me share up my screen with you guys and let us continue understanding what exactly you will be doing up when you will be part of the corporate life. And I would like to make you understand this thing, like this session would not make any sense if it is not interactive. So do not feel that you are like asking up a question, do not feel like you might look stupid. So that does not make any sense to me. Like any question is relevant, so please do like ask questions so that, but you should mute up if it is not required. Okay. So this is a webinar which is based out from transforming your career from campus to corporate. So what exactly you do when you are a part of a corporate industry? So what kind of organization you might be interested joining up? So basically, like I will just give you a brief. There are two kind of industries in the like world. One is service-based industry and second is product-based industry. So anyone who knows anything about it, please share it with me. Please unmute yourself and speak up. Anyone? No one? Okay. So what exactly is a service-based industry? Is like there are two kind of industries in the world. As I said, one is service-based industry and second is product-based industry. So you must have heard about companies such as Accenture, TCS, Infosys. Then you might have heard about Styria or Sopra. And there are n number of companies who have clients for which they work for. So like, for example, I was working for Sopra Steria. There they had a client, a banking client. So what they were doing is they were building up the website for them, and even the like mobile apps and like even the backend infrastructure and everything. So they have picked up this project from someone else. They were not doing a project for themselves. So this is what is known as service based industry. An organization which picks up a project for someone else and works for them is a service based organization. But when you talk about something such as Microsoft, Flipkart, Facebook, so Facebook is itself a product, right? So this is a product which is being developed by the people. So they do not have any client. So they have to work in their for their product. So that will be called as a product based companies. So it is always difficult to be a part of a product based company than to be a part of a service based company. Any answers why? Why is it difficult to be a part of product based companies and not service based company? I need answers. Come on. You need to unmute yourself to ask things. So you people do not have any questions around things? I see a lot of strength out there. No? Okay, no problem. You can feel comfortable. I understand the uh, the foundations which you must be going on as of now, because this will take time. When you jump from campus to corporate, then only like you start developing up yourself as a professional, and like you get a confidence speaking in front of others. So that's not an issue. But obviously you should like you unmute yourself and speak and ask whatever thing is there in your mind, because this is something which will help you out like for yourself, right? So anyhow, like why is it difficult to like be a part of service-based industry and product-based industry? It is very simple to answer. Like service-based industry has projects which belong to some other clients. So the company is not actually responsible for the product. They complete it and deliver it. So that's why like there can be some negotiations. You can like maybe technically you are not developing up the product so well, or maybe like there are some like client is coming back to you saying that there is some problem with the product. So these all things keep happening. But when you are running up the product for your organization, then you cannot expect the product to not work, because you are doing the work for yourself. So when you say that when Facebook is working for themselves, they need resources which are like which can understand the technologies deep enough. So I would like to clear this thing at very start. Like I will not be taking up any technical aspects today. So we will not going deep in like into any language or like discussing about the technical aspects. There are a lot of domains in the industry. So it is not necessary that you need to be a hard coder to be a good resource or to be a good earning person in the industry. You might be a graphic designer, you might be a marketing guy. So becoming an engineer does not mean that you need to be a hard coder, but being a hard coder is always an added advantage. So there are very few skilled resources in the industry, like who knows about the architecture and like the distributed system and how like people actually develop the softwares. So like being a part of coding will enhance yourself and put you up to a next level where like your manager will seek you. So there is a thing like when you need to show yourself, you have to stand out of the line. And how can you do that? You have to choose technologies and read them. So anyhow, like this particular thing, which is service based to product based companies, this was one of the things which used to come up to my mind when I was at your age. I was not sure what exactly is the meaning of a service based and a product based company. But today, like as like Dr. Archana said, like I have worked for more than 11 or 12 organizations, out of which few were service based and few were product based organizations. So for you, I would suggest like if you are a hard coder, then you should always reach out and like go for product based companies. But like if you are a soft coder and looking out for like a consistent life rather than gaining up financially, you can also go towards service based industry. So as per the financial aspects, you can easily interpret like any product based company will like pay you much more. So are you people giving up interviews? Ma'am, are these people giving up interviews? Placements?
Yes, sir.
So you people are doing up placements, right? So like when you sit up in a placement, like at your level, what exactly happens is like the package is already decided up. Say for example, when Infosys came to our organization, so I am a graduate from Maharaja Surajmal Institute of Technology that belongs to the part of IP University. And when I graduated from there, there were a lot of companies which came up, and they already had a fixed package. Say like there was a library management company, I don't remember the name, but they were paying us around 6 lakhs rupees per annum. So at that time, I used to had this doubt, like saying that what exactly should I ask about the money? So that is a very starting stage. So I would rather say like whenever you get into an organization, take experience of 1 year at least, and then start thinking about all of these things. Because when you are an experienced person, you know how to deal with things. But I would like to make you clear one thing, that in our industry, experience and package, both of them are different things. It is all about requirement and skills. If you have good skills, then your package can be like more, even if you are less experienced. So everything over here is like a game of demand and supply. So anyhow, my focus remains to make sure that I make you understand one point, and that is upskilling yourself. Like I usually believe that without coding, it is very difficult for anyone to reach up to heights. Being an engineer, because like I would not like stress out on it, because I have seen people who have even like reached up to heights like not being a coder. So there are a lot of business analysts around me. So and like these people, like what they do is they actually bring up business, but they should even have knowledge of softwares. So it is not that these people do not like these people code. Yep, I see someone raising up hand. Please, any question? I just saw someone raising up hand. Okay, so it might be just a touch mistake touch.
Hello, sir.
Yep, please go ahead.
Sir, my question is what type of measures are needed to be a job person in product-based companies? Because some measures are on the base of coding and non-coding. So what types of measures mainly needed?
What type of?
Measures and skills are needed to be a job person in product-based companies.
Okay, so this is a very good question. So let me just move out of this. Give me a second, and let me go over here. So this is the first question which we got, and this is what are the skills needed to be part of product-based company. So we will just be coming back to this in some time. Anyone else with any other question? Your good name, please.
Shivam Pandey.
Shivam, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So anyone else who wants to ask up any question as of now? So I'm just writing up the question so that we can discuss after a minute, maybe, please. Okay, that makes sense. So we will be just coming up to this part in a minute. Other than this, like, do you have anything in mind for a service-based and product-based companies? Because it is not a lot of thing to understand. It is very simple. You can see you people already must be knowing about things. So I understand your like emotions as of now, because I have been at your place. So I know like people do see things, they know things, but they just do not speak out. So anyhow, like this was a short description on service-based and product-based companies. And if we do not have anything else from anyone else, then I can straightforwardly move to the question asked by Shivam. Okay, so let us first answer up this question. So I have another question in mind. So what should be your expectation for salary from product-based and service-based? Okay, So first thing, what Shivam asked is, what are the skills needed to be a part of product-based companies? Shivam, it entirely depends on which company you are looking at to be a part of. Say, for example, you need to be a part of Facebook. So does anyone out of you know in what all languages Facebook is being made of? Please, please, please. Yeah, you people can't, like, I don't expect this thing, like you people does not know anything. This is not possible, right? If you have spent 2 years, 3 years, 4 years into an industry, because when you're studying up, you are already into industry, right? So I cannot like digest this thing that you do not know, and I will not like make this happen that you do not speak out. You have to speak out, please. So let me know what all technologies are being used for building up Facebook, please. Any answers, please? No one? You can go up and speak up, right? You can say HTML, PHP, Python, Java. May be wrong, right? Come on. Any answers, please? Or else I will have to pinpoint and ask people, right? So I just see Kishan in front of me. Can you please unmute and like answer up this question? What all technologies you think are being made up for, like used up for Facebook? I am asking Kishan Dwivedi right in front of my screen.
Like
Please.
C plus plus Java, MySQL database के लिए और JavaScript like that.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Neha? Please keep speak up. What technologies do you think is Facebook made up of? Anything, Sneha, please? I don't see you. Unmute. Sneha, 4919160. Nope. Internet issues? Okay. So I will just not waste up time on this. So again, Facebook is something which was initially made up using PHP. So PHP was the backend server language, and obviously HTML is always required for any web-based technology. HTML, CSS, SCSS, and like PHP was the backend language. Other than that, the Facebook Messenger was made using MQTT protocol. So you people might not have heard about it, but there is something called as RabbitMQ. So RabbitMQ is nothing but a message broker. So just to give you a short description, what exactly is a message broker? So I will not go deep into it, but I would like to give you a short description onto it. So I will just open up my Paint so that you develop interest into technology as well. So previously what used to happen, say if this is a computer system, then this is again a computer system, 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 this is again, and this might be the last one. So you can imagine this way, like these all are the computer system in your computer lab in your college. So earlier, like there was an issue for like making up communication between them. So you people must be aware of a term which is topology, right? So when you say that this is a computer system, this can directly talk to this, then this can directly talk to this, and this can directly talk to this, this can directly talk to this, and in the similar way, this can directly talk to this, and this can directly talk to this, and this can directly talk to this. So this is nothing but a mesh architecture. What it is a mesh architecture, correct? Let me just zoom this up. This is nothing but a mesh architecture. So where everyone can talk with one another, but you must be seeing with the lines, even with the lines, how complicated it will be, right? So people here in our industry do not want to make things complicated. You need to understand this thing. We people do not want to make things complicated. We want to make them simpler. We want to make them easier for everyone. That's why like we are running behind no code. people are running behind other things, right? So this looks to be so complicated now, right? Here and here, we cannot talk with each other. Like this is talking to this is talking to this, and each one are talking to each other. So you can imagine what kind of code it will require to create any kind of communication such as this. Second is there is some kind of communication which is known as client server communication, which is like our browser. Say this is our browser in maybe yellow color. Give me a second, please. This is our browser and this is our server. So in client server communication, what exactly happens is there is one server and there are many clients. So this is another client and this is another client. Now these people cannot talk with each other, right? These people cannot talk with each other. They can only talk with the server. So this is a easy approach, right? So these people cannot talk with each other. They can only talk with this particular server. So this is a easy approach. So this is what do we call it? We call it as a client server architecture. So in this architecture, you have clients as your browser, web browser. Say this is my browser and I just go and hit something as say google.com. So this is my client. So this particular URL can be shooted up by 100 of users, but they will hit the same server. Obviously, Google will not have only one server. So I just want you to imagine that if they have just one server, they will be shooted up to just one server, right? So now when you know about this client server architecture and this mesh architecture, which is way complicated, Facebook wanted to build up a real-time communication, which is called as Messenger. So I have already told you, like Facebook is built up of PHP, HTML, CSS, and backend. They can have any server. They can have Apache server, Nginx server. That is not disclosed, right? That is their proprietary, and they will not never disclose it. So, like, what I want you to understand is like any product which is a bigger product has a lot of softwares which are being used at the backend. For example, we were just talking about RabbitMQ. So this was the mesh architecture, and they wanted a technology using which they could communicate with each other easily. And like you people must be using Facebook Messenger, right? You type in hello and send it to your friend and it reaches it, right? So what exactly and how exactly is that? There is no, like there is a way which is like client server architecture, but it is not client server architecture. Let me just clear this. And I want you to keep one thing in mind before I like go ahead and speak of the next statement, that is mesh architecture. So we have already seen the complexity of mesh architecture. Now, how does RabbitMQ solves it? This is one of my system and this is another system. So here person A is sitting on the messenger and here person B is sitting on the messenger. And here we have a machine which has RabbitMQ installed. So I want you to focus on one more thing. I always treat software as like maybe software product as machines and code files. These are the only two things. One is a computer machine and second is a file. This can define any technology, any kind of like architecture which is there. So we will not go deep into it. Let us understand this RabbitMQ in a short way. So what exactly will happen? This A will send it to this particular machine. So this machine will have RabbitMQ installed. This is nothing but a server like your HTTP server, but with another capability. What is the capability? As the person A types the message, this message goes to the server, and if this person is online, that message will instantly at that time only will be sent to B. So this makes it as a real-time communication. So this server does not wait. This server does not wait for B asking up. So here what happens is, in our case of browser in client server architecture, when we hit google.com, then only Google server responds with this Google website. When I will hit say abcd.com, then only this ABCD server will be like giving us the results. So let me just type in, say, Myntra.com, right? When I type in this Myntra.com, then only like I will get the website on my browser, right? So the server only responds when it get a request, right? But this is not the case with RabbitMQ, right? There are some like you can say that channels. First we create a connection, then we create channels, and after creating channels, we just pass the message to the server. And if this B is online, it will send this message to B instantaneously. So this is what like RabbitMQ is. So to answer up your question, Shivam, coming back to your question, what skills are needed to be a part of product-based companies? It depends on the product or the company you want to go for. So if you are targeting Facebook, learn MQTT. If you want to be a part of Messenger, learn PHP. If you want to develop their front end, learn like MySQL or big data. So when you say that these people are using MySQL, no, they can't use MySQL. They have millions of users. They have to use big data. They have to use like they need multiple servers. They need thousands of servers which have to be connected using big data platform. What is big data? Big data uses technology which is Hadoop. Anyone have heard about it? I just want yes or no. Hadoop. No problem. So, Shivam, do I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
So, just to give you another example, like if you are working out for, if you are targeting WhatsApp, so WhatsApp usually do not take a lot of employees because they already have a set team. But if you are targeting WhatsApp, then you should learn Erlang and Elixir. So when we have this point, I would like to claim one thing. So this is what I am claiming as of now. So my YouTube channel is the only channel on YouTube which is giving up detailed videos on Erlang as of now. There is no other channel which is giving detailed videos on Erlang as of now. Now, what should be the expectation for salary from product-based and service-based organization? So there is no limit of expectation for a product-based organization. Yes, you heard it right. There is no limit for any expectation from a product-based organization. They can give you from 5 lakh rupees till 1 crore rupees till 5 crore rupees. It actually does not matter for them. What matter for them is the technology and the quality of the work which you are delivering up. Obviously, the hike can only be asked if you have a particular skill set. You need to prove it. So this is what like I am doing up with my YouTube channel. I am trying to prove people, and like this is how you get even projects in the industry. So we will come back to that point later, but like this was just about expectation. So you might start up with any package. So I would just give you an example. Like my package was a single digit package when like I already served 5 years in the industry. So during the first 5 years in the industry, I was not able to grow up huge. I was a manual tester at that time. So you people must be aware about what manual testing is. Manual testing is nothing but a simple testing where you log on, where you just use this browser, right? This is the browser. You just Google and like log in and go inside this browser. And then say if you are going testing Facebook, then you will log into Facebook, then you will create a post. So these are all our manual work which you will be doing now. So manual testing is a field which is being paid least in the industry. Yes, it is being paid least in the industry. That does not mean that a manual tester should not know technology. So even manual testers earn in double figures. So I have seen manual testers having package of 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs. But those people are those manual testers who know coding, who do manual testing by their choice because they want to move into business analyst part. But these people know coding. They do not do coding, but they know coding. They know the architecture. They know how systems are designed. They know like what all language can be used. They know like how a system can be altered in a way that it performs well functionally. So the purpose of manual tester is to define a performance of the product functionally. So during the start of this webinar, I asked you what is a performance tester. So my work and my expertise, although I am an expert of like a lot of tools, but my expertise, main expertise is into performance engineering. My like expertise come up when any software is slow, any software. So may it be A, B, C, D, and may it be made of any technology. So now you can correlate things. So for me, the tasks are difficult. Any client can come to me and say that my product is built of this technology. Please make it fast. I cannot deny them, right? I have to make it fast. So my work is difficult because I need to know all the technologies or most of the technologies. If I do not know about it, at least I need to study it. So coming up next, let us move to the next slide. We have discussed a lot about service-based and product-based companies. Before moving ahead, again, I will ask if anyone has any questions. Nope. Great. So this is again something which I used to have in mind when I was at your age. So what exactly is the difference between joining up a startup and a big company? So again, a startup can be a service-based startup. It can be a product-based startup. Big company can also, yep, please, anyone? Najruddin, can you please go mute if you do not have any question? Okay. So even the big company can be a product-based company and it can be a like service-based company. Both of these two things are different, right? So,
Hello.
yep. Okay. So when we say that, like we are like dealing up with startup and big companies, which is the better one? So again, I will just give you a short description. Startup, if you join a startup, you will need more skills and you will get sir, I would like you to please go on mute. Divesh, could you please go on mute? Okay. So like for a startup, again, you need
Sorry, there's some technical problem.
sorry, ma'am, I did not get you. So am I audible, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So startup and big companies again. So like as I was saying to you, startup needs more skills, but you get exposure in startup. Say if you join Accenture, where you already have like 10 lakh people working around. So in Accenture, when you have 10 lakh people working around and you are one of them, so you cannot be exposed to higher management easily. You need to do something like some extra miles. You need to walk some extra miles for like being in eyes of some management person. But in startup, if you join a startup, you are in eyes of management from very start, and you even need to hard work more in a startup. This is a fact. You need to work hard more in a startup. You grow fast in a startup. There is always a job security risk in startup. In big companies, even if you don't work, so I've seen people who do not even work for entire weeks and they get paid, right? So this is a normal phenomena in engineering, like, and this is why like we do have people managers. So like this is a difference between big company and startup. I never say to people that you cannot be exposed into a big company because I myself has lived into very, very big companies such as Infosys, Accenture. Then I have been into startups such as Zebia. Then I have been into product-based companies such as IHS Market. Then now currently I am working as a part of COE, which is Center of Excellence in Pyramid. So this is also a small company in Pyramid. Again, like this is not a startup, but this is a small company, not so big company as of now, but this is not a startup. This is a middle level company. So there are no recommendations. There is nothing specific about these things other than only one thing. If you want to groom yourself you want to get financially strong sooner, then you should always look towards startup. Because at my age, I can say this thing, rather than focusing on just packages, we can focus on another term, which is percentage. So what about if you start getting percentage in a company? You start getting the shares of the company. As the company grows, the share value grows, and so do you, right? So when I was a part of IHS Market, we used to get up company shares. They used to distribute shares. So that was really amazing. I still do have those shares, and like the value is just increasing every year, or every maybe every 5 months or 6 months. These get increased. So I think now IHS Market has been merged with S&P. So S&P has bought IHS Market, and now these people are working up with S&P, and that's why the share rose up like around 21%. But anyhow, the point is, when some organization is already doing good, they will obviously do good in future as well. So when you get the shares as a percentage, it gives you more fruits in coming up life. So I would suggest you to not only concentrate on CTC on your package, but also go towards like percentages in like few companies, maybe after 4 or 5 years of work experience. But yes, you can keep up this thing in your mind. So any questions from anyone on this PPT, please? Yep. So I am not astonished, because I usually get these kind of silence even from the experts. So I have already given like around 600 webinars as of now in my life. And sorry.
Sir. I have a question in the chat box.
Niranjan, you are not audible well. You can even type up your question. I will read it right now. So where are the messages? Where can you find the messages out here? So you were not audible, Niranjan. You can speak up again. Nope. No problem. So you can even touch base with me at a later stage. So I would give you reference. I will give you my LinkedIn link, my Facebook channel link, and my YouTube link as well. I have all my details where I can be contacted. So you can contact me even at the later stage. I will be happy to guide. No problem. Let us continue with this particular webinar. So the next thing is, again, like I have prepared up this webinar so that what all questions I used to have at the time when I was at your age. So what all things you can choose for being a part of any MNC. So either you can be a full stack developer, you can go towards data science. A lot of people are going towards data science. So there is a myth about data science. Like people usually have, like people just try to understand this thing. People expect to learn Python, and if they have learned Python, they expect that they have learned data science. It is not true. Data science is pure mathematics, right? So until you do not know what exactly is standard deviation, until you do not know what is 90 percentile, until you do not know what is an average, you cannot use a function. Python just provides you a function to implement data, like some particular mathematical operation on a set of data. So when you perform a mathematical operation on a set of data, that is called data science. Data science or data analysis is just analysis of the data. You have a large set of data. You are just calculating the standard deviation and seeing like how exactly your customers are moving from a point, right? So similarly, like data has a lot of other points and things. So, but what is the thinking? Thinking for data science is not as of for a coder. You do not need to think as a coder for data science. You need to think as a mathematician for data science, right? So these are a few things which I am trying to understand you, because you can clear a service based industry interview easily without like doing all of these things, but I guarantee you would not be able to clear a product based industry interview until you go deep inside things. So another thing for you, Shivam, in product based companies, after analyzing what technology you want to choose, you need to understand the concepts. So every technology, may it be Python, may it be Java, may it be RabbitMQ, may it be Kafka. So RabbitMQ and Kafka both are message brokers. One is actually the event streamer, but you can, as of now, just understand saying that both are message broker. So Facebook could have used Kafka, but at that time, Kafka was not matured enough. So they picked up RabbitMQ. Now everything is made up using RabbitMQ. So the point is, when you know the technologies, then you need to implement the algorithms. So you must be having a subject in your curriculum which is data structures. That is very important. And when you go to product-based industry, they will ask you write the algorithm for quicksort. They will ask you write the algorithm for merge sort. So they will ask you to write the algorithms. So those algorithms can be implemented in any language, right? Those must already be implemented in most of the language, but they want to see how logical you are. In product-based companies, people will go towards logic. They will grill you towards logic. They will need to understand how do you understand the technology. They will try to understand if you're clear about the concepts of networking. They will try to understand if you know how exactly a request reaches a computer system in any MNC. So there are like these questions, these set of skills, because those people in product-based companies are already experts. And that's why they expect people coming after them to also be experts. In service-based industry, like people usually are not experts. A lot of people, like if there are 100 people, yep. So if there are like 100 people, out of them 25 might be the experts, and like 75 others just work as per these 25 people. But obviously, even service-based industry cannot work without quality. But the difference is, in product-based companies, each and everyone is required to be a skilled resource, right? And the questions revolves around a lot of logics. So when you are preparing up for any interview for product-based companies, at first you need to understand is what company you are like targeting. You should know the technologies. Then you should know the generic topics. Generic topics are such as data structures, then some algorithms, right? So I had a subject called as computer compiler in my 4th year, if I remember correct. So I have never used that information in my life. So that was the toughest subject which I had in 4th year. That was computer compiler. So like I had like nothing to do with it today. I do not know about it. Seriously, I do not know how to create a computer because this is not required for me. So this industry is so big, you need to figure out a part for you. You need to figure out if you need to be a developer. You need to figure out in what thing you can be the best. Even people in database, in SQL, earn good. Even people who design the architect, that is computer architect, earn good. So you might not like know this. I am a tester. Yes, this is a myth. If people say that testers do not have coding experience or knowledge, so you can just talk to me, please. So I was a manual tester at first. Then I became an automation tester, and now I'm a performance engineer. So I now call myself to be a performance engineer, and like we people now believe ourselves to be above computer architects and even software developers. So even so, like software developers like comes up after testing, and then we have computer architects, and then we can say that we compare ourselves to computer architects. That is like we say that we are performance engineers, and we finalize if a software will be going to a production environment or not, or if it be delivered to the client. Because if I just drop an email saying that this is not fit to go to the client, it will not go to the client. So we are responsible for the product, and that's why we choose ourselves to be above them, because it is not their responsibility. No one is going to blame them. It is not their job which is at risk. If a bad product is being delivered to the client, what it means, you are losing up your job. Simple as that. You lose up your job. So coming back to this point, you need to figure out what exactly you need to go into. You need to go into testing. Then there are AI. So this is again a myth. If people say that everyone is moving towards data science and AI, and we just have jobs for AI and data science, that is not true. So even people in data science and AI having like 4 years of experience, 5 years of experience are not earning so good. They are having a package of 8 lakhs, 9 lakhs, 15 lakhs. So these people are also not earning so good. Like even if they are into data science or AI, I am a performance engineer and a computer architect, but like we are towards something else. We go towards deepness. We can work for data science as well. We can work for AI as well. So this is the difference which comes up. So it is not only one technology you will have to pick up after a point. So you start with one technology, you work for years, then you need to give up and bring up another technology. I will just tell you a story. There is one of an intern who came up to my organization, and he worked with us for like maybe 5 months. So he actually did not have any job. He was a electrical engineer. So he was one of my friend, and he asked me to be a part of IT industry. He was not sure how to switch from an electrical engineer background to a IT engineer background. So I myself being a part of COE, I suggested him that what I can do for him is like I can make him work with me for 5 months, but I would not be able to pay him. Obviously, I do not own the organization, and there are some constraints which I have to like follow up as per my management. So anyhow, I asked him to join up the organization with me, and he did join the organization with me, and he worked for us for like maybe 4.5 or 5 months for free as an intern. And after those like 5 months, like he had 4 of us, and now he is again a tester. He's an automation tester, and he has joined HCL at like 6.5 lakhs per annum. So he just wanted a transformation from electrical to IT. Obviously, this is not a good package at his age, but again, he made a start, and like as he was a very quick learner, because experience does matter. So you do have in electrical science or you have in computer science, but experience does matter. Today your teachers are experienced than you, and that makes them different, right? They are matured, they know the value of money, they know how they have to like like feed their family, right? There are a lot of things which we have to think of, right? So this matureness comes up with time. So even I told you, like I started getting matured after like I had my baby. So during the first 5 years, I had the salary in single figure, but the question is like, how much do you expect? I got a hike of 100% after 5 years. That is true. So you cannot say that you cannot get a hike of 100% or even 200%. That depends completely on your skill set and your hard work. So I started hard working after 4 or 5 years. I am trying to make you understand that hard work from today. You will grow better than me, right? So I just wanted you to realize this thing, that do not take your career lightly. Just try to focus on one thing and do it. Just do things for first 2 years. When you will start earning good amount, then you would know all of these things by yourself. So then you have to choose between any of these things, and you can see that there is something called as UX designer. So this UX designer is nothing but like graphic designing. This is a field which is even paid a lot. So if you people are continuous on Facebook, there is something called as Growth School. I have seen the ads a lot of time. So this Growth School has a course on UX designer. So that he's a person, Saptrishi. If I remember the name correct, the founder is Saptrishi. So he is a person, and like he is a graduate from a good A grade or B grade college. So I call myself to be a like pass out of B grade college because I am a pass out of IP University. We can't consider it as A grade college, but today I have made myself into a way like even people from A grade college, like they speak up like in a good way to us, right? So it is not about being above or beneath anyone. It is just about being yourself. The point is, I was talking about Saptrishi. He is a UX designer, and I see that he is a passer from A grade, and like he chose his career to be as a UX designer. So he used to work on Adobe Premium, Adobe After Effects. So these are things where like his interest was towards graphic designing, not towards coding. So when you say, for example, when you're creating an e-commerce website or any other website, even graphic designers are required. If you do not have good designs, you cannot make a website look good. And that's why like these people are also costly. So the point is, it is not necessary to be a good coder to earn good. It is necessary to analyze your capability. You cannot blindly follow anyone. You need to understand what you are best at. If your brain works well into coding, so my brain works well into coding, that's why I always choose coding. If you ask me to do a designing part, I would never be able to do it. Even this PPT is being created by someone else, right? I cannot design it. So this is why people need team, and teamwork is really very, very important in any organization. So before I move ahead, I would ask you a question, and this time I want answer from you guys rather than me picking you up. What is a DevOps engineer? So I never understood this term in my life during the first few years. What is a DevOps engineer? People out there, please speak up. Unmute yourself and speak up, please. So I think I will have to pick up thing. No? Anyone? DevOps engineers. What is a DevOps engineer? Rupesh Tiwari, right in front of me. Please unmute and answer. What is a DevOps engineer? No? Aditya?
Sir, I am not answer about this.
Sorry, Rupesh.
Sir, I am not answered about it.
You do not know about it. No problem. Anyone else? Aditya? No. Neelam Sharma? Okay. I see like you people need to work a lot on your terms. So terminologies are very important. So I would reiterate myself, being a part of technical world, if you do not want to be a coder, that's okay. But if you do not want to know about the technologies, that is not okay. Maybe you are a graphic designer, maybe you are a computer network engineer, maybe a security engineer. You should be knowing about the technologies which are revolving around you. Right? So what exactly is a DevOps engineer? I will try to explain you. So okay, so what used to happen previously, say if I need to install a server on Linux machine, so you people must have already, like at least you should be knowing about operating system. There are two kind of operating system. One is Linux and second is Windows. I apologize. One is Linux and second is Windows. So when we speak about Linux, so when you need to install any software on Linux, you need to give commands. And when you need to install any software on Windows, you are running up an exe file. You just double click the exe and then next, and everything is installed. So all of those things are GUI. In Linux, things are not GUI. You need to type in commands. So for example, and like those are very simple commands, seriously, not so much commands. For example, if you just want to install a server, what you will do is you will say sudo apt and you will say get and say update. This will be the first command. This will update the repository of your Ubuntu machine. Then what you will do is you will say sudo is used for root user, and apt is the repository name. Then you will say apt get upgrade. So update and upgrade are two different commands. And then I will just say sudo apt get install and say Apache 2. So apt install Apache. So this will install Apache server. This is it. You have installed the Apache server. Now your computer system, your same machine, which is like this machine, is now a server. So this is the server, and if you want to automate it, you need to run all these three commands together. And this is what Docker does. Docker is a part of DevOps. So what it do is it run all of these three commands. They have prepared a software which reads the Docker file. So Docker file is nothing but name of the file, which is Docker file, and inside that file you will write all these three commands one by one. Say I'm just giving an example so that you understand DevOps. So next time when you need to install these things, you do not have to run all of these three things again. You just need to execute one statement and say execute Docker file. So this is not the right command. I am just trying to make you understand the logic. Now this will execute this Docker file which has all of these three commands, and you do not need to know all of these three commands. When you are working for a product, it is not only these three commands. There are like 100 of commands which have to be followed to set up a system. So you cannot remember, or like it is very time consuming. So you just create one Docker file and run it every time you want the system to be up. It even maintains the versions. Say for example, when you are installing software for version 1 and when you install software for version 2, both the versions will have some difference, right? That's why like the versioning is different. So software A had some version, then the product team coded something else. If there was some defects, they coded something else, and now it is version 2. So when these two versions have been like picked up, so there will be some things which will work in version 1 and some things which will not be working in version 2. So sync of versions in product-based company is very important, and you can't remember these versions. This is very complex. So the person who creates this up writes all of these things inside a Docker file, and a developer such as me will not have to set the system manually. He will give me the Docker file. I will just run the Docker file and all the things will be set up. This is what is called as DevOps, development operations, right? So it builds the gap. DevOps is a person who builds the gap between development and production. So these are the people which make sure that things become easier. So all of these things were like being executed previously, even previously when DevOps was not a term. DevOps came so that things become easier. Previously, the developer was paid more. They need to have more knowledge. So for developing a system, now people do not need to know Apache server. They need to know only their coding language. They do not need to set up a system. They just need to write up their files, right? Any question, anyone, please? So I hope that I am making up sense in front of you. You people should be able to understand it. Like even if you are a mediocre average student, so because I was myself an average student, so I think that if I can understand it, even you can understand it. right? So this is a very simple term which I wanted you to explain, which is DevOps. And like DevOps has a lot of tools and a lot of automation at a lot of places. This is just an example. Docker is just an example. Then DevOps has a lot of software such as Ansible. Then we have Terraform. Then we have Docker, and then we have various softwares for other platforms, for cloud-based platforms. Today, cloud-based platforms is very important, right? So most of these series, like if you are someone who want to go deep, because today I'm not going deep, but if you are someone who wants to go deep, you can obviously visit my channel. I have like 12 plus tools over there and deep dive tools, and I guarantee that no one in the industry can make those tools like the explanation of those tools and the deepness of those tools which have been done in my videos, because I have devoted a lot of time in understanding them myself. So obviously you can visit up the channel and like see up the videos, that is for free. Then if we go ahead, before going ahead, do you people have any questions as of now, please? Because all of the other terms are very easy. You must be knowing about IT security. Security is you're checking up the security of your website. So again, I will not go deep inside it. But if you are someone who's looking out to be a freak on IT security, you should go and look out for Metasploit. So this is a framework which can be used on Kali Linux. Kali Linux is also an operating system such as Ubuntu. So you can just go and download Kali Linux, and there you will find a Metasploit framework, and even the tutorials on Metasploit are great. So my channel do not have this series as of now, but it might be there in future. So any questions from anyone about anything as of now, please? No? That's okay. So this is an important part, why we study computer architecture. So whatever we have discussed about DevOps and all of these things comes up with computer architecture. For me, computer architecture is just a machine and set of files. So for example, you can make a diagram saying that this is Chrome. Then you can say that this Chrome is connected to a server, and that server is Apache server, which is on HTTP. So now, if you see that this is a very simple architectural diagram of a website. You have client, which is Chrome. You have server, which is Apache server. You have put a code on server. It is being executed. Whenever you hit a request from Chrome, the response gets back to Chrome, and you see the web page on your browser. That's good. But when I say for me, it is all about machines and files. What do I mean? It does not clarifies you how many machines are there, how many files are there, and so on. So there might be a possibility that you are running a website which have 10 million users. And if you have 10 million users, only one machine will not be able to cater your request. So what should be the actual architecture of your system? It should be something like this. Let me just remove this part, and this part as well. So it will be something like this. It will be machine 1, machine 2, machine 3, machine 4, and here will be have another machine. I'll just tell you what these are for. And here we will have another machines. What do I mean by a machine? Machine is a computer system which has CPU, RAM, and all of other things. So this is a machine, and here we will be having a load balancer, right? So a request will be sent from Chrome to this load balancer. So this machine has some files or some software written which are doing the purpose of load balancing. So this load balancer can be written in any language. It can be written in Python, Java, and every language supports it. You can write a load balancer of your own. So when you have written a code over here, which is expecting a request and which responds to a request. So what it will do is it will take a request and it will send the request either to this or to this or to this or to this. So these are the machines. These are the four different machines. And all of these 4 machines has the same software installed. This Apache server, HTTP server. Now here we have the importance of something called as Docker. When you have the Docker file, you do not need to go and install all of these things separately. You will go to the first system, execute Docker file, everything will be installed. You will go to second system, execute everything, and all of things will be installed. Then you go to the third system, execute everything, and all of these things will be installed. Then you will go to fourth system and execute everything, and all of this thing will be installed. So these will be the 4 machines having the same files or the same softwares. So if this machine is capable of answering www.google.com, if this machine can answer www.google.com, even this can answer www.google.com. So these are nothing but the applications layer. They do not have the data. They just have the server installed, and on that server you just code up for the logical part, that if someone shoots google.com, what should it look for? It should look for this, and where it should look for, right? So again, all of these machines have the same files. That's why I want you to understand the concept of machines and files. Then this will, again, for data, it will reach the database server. So this is nothing but a MySQL server. Say this is a database server. This is a MySQL server, and this database server will take response from this HTTP server. Say for google.com, it will say, like, if someone is trying to log in, it will check the credentials and it will pass. The credentials will be checked here itself. The credentials will not be sent back to the browser. No, it will be checked, and that's why it is a logical part. So it will shoot the response. It will go to load balancer. This will take the credentials. It will take the credentials from the database back. It will check it here itself. Yep. And then it goes back to the Chrome part. So this is why, like, I usually say that it is all about machines and files. So this is again a machine which has a specific purpose, and files for setting up a database server. So I hope that this should be clear. If we have any questions around here, you can go ahead and ask me, please. No? So this is why computer architecture is important. So you should just know a simple concept that in computer system, everything behaves as a machine and files, right? So if I just go ahead. So next is there are some myths surrounding testing and AI/ML. So again, like we have already discussed myths around testing, that people think that testing is not a good field to earn. This is a myth. You can even earn well in testing as well. Second is people think that learning few libraries in Python will make them an expert in AI/ML. That is not true. Writing up the algorithm yourself does make you cool in AI/ML. Just implementing it with a line of code does not make you a coder. And this is what is being checked and tested by a product-based company. So anyone, any questions as of now, please? No? Okay. So you should always choose a career that suits you. So I usually used to think one more point, like how should I go to on-site? So in today's world, there is actually no requirement of creating an on-site opportunity. So you can connect to any machine. If a machine is kept in Netherlands, I can connect to it from here in India, right? So if there is a machine which is there in US, you can connect to that machine from here in India. But like, if you want to go on site, what exactly do you need to do? The first thing is you do need to ask your manager. You need to put him into a agreement where he knows that you have an interest in going on site. Yes, you should speak up to your manager saying that yes, you want to go to on site, please do something about it. You should keep asking him. Then on-site opportunity does not comes due to technology gap. So it is not because you will be sent to on-site because you are not able to connect to a system. No, a system can be connected from India, which is there in Netherlands. The only reason people send like people to on-site is team building and security concern. Like if they do not want to expose their system to India, they will not expose it, rather they will call you. Second is team building. So these are the only two possibilities, like, or two reasons why which you can create up an on-site opportunity. So like say you, when you belong to a team and your team sits in Netherlands, you can say that I want to meet them. So at least you can go to on-site for a month so that you people become familiar, you meet them physically, and then you know each other well, and this will like bring up a bond between you people, right? So these are the reasons which are being chosen up by people to build up an on-site opportunity. Obviously, if you're even if you are working in an organization and you need an on-site opportunity, so in most of the cases you need to go up with an interview as well. Like even if you are already in an organization, you have to go and give an interview. So this is not true for all the cases, but yes, in most cases this happens. So you prepare for the interview, you dress up well, and you ask questions. So this is how you seek up for on-site opportunity. The point is you should always ask for it. Any questions, anyone, please? Okay. So now is a thing which is how to look for a startup. If you want to build up a startup of your own, then how you should look for a startup, right? So I would suggest you not to quit your jobs for starting up any startup. You can continue doing up your job, as like you see that I am doing up my job. I am a part of a startup. I have founded this organization which is host-tune-perform, and I work both ways. So today I had to give this webinar. So I had a conversation with my manager. I explained it to even my vice president. I explained it to him. So they were happy to help. So people are usually happy to help in organizations if you are working well with them as well. So they do not want to tease you. They do not want to harm you. They do not want to stop you. All of these things are myth. So good people and bad people are everywhere. You need to play your politics as per the scenario which you are into, right? So you need to be shrewd enough to understand things and like take up time to throw up challenges, like so that you are able to grow up financially, like and like even like as per the fame part, you can grow only when like you are calm enough and sure enough. So if you're looking out for a startup, then also like I would suggest you not to leave the organization but parallelly work into the startup. And as the startup grows, maybe if you are able to earn say 5,000 rupees a month or 10,000 rupees a month, obviously then is the right time you can choose up to quit your job, because uh, growing up something when you already have something is easier than like not having anything at all. So this is a slide which I just picked up for use because people do have questions about startup as well, and they do not know if they have to do a job or not. Because even if you are making up a product and you are into a job, I don't think that any company in the world will force you to work more than 5 or 6 hours in a day. So if you are dedicatedly working for like I have in my career, like I have 12 years of experience in my career. I have never worked for more than 4 hours a day, frankly. So we people even do not expect our juniors to work for more than 4 hours a day, but these 4 hours should be highly productive, right? So I mean is like you should be highly concentrated and like doing up your tasks, right? But usually because after working for half an hour, everyone needs a break for 15 minutes, then again work for half an hour, everyone needs a break for 15 minutes, and this is what usually also go up in corporate world. But you do not have to say this. I am saying this in front of you. You do not have to say this in front of anyone. This is what I was talking about, this shrewdness, right? So you cannot speak this up. Everyone knows it that no one works for more than 4 hours, but we all say that we work for 9 hours, right? So this was a thing about looking out for startup. So any questions, anyone? No? Wait. I will just come back in a minute. My battery is going up, down. So I will just connect my laptop with the adapter. Give me a second, please. Okay. So this is all about my channel. So we have like free tutorial series, and these series are on, say, Prometheus, Nagios. There will be a lot of softwares which you people must have not even heard about. If you want to follow up my channel, I would recommend you to computer architecture. So you people can start up with a series which is called as computer architecture. That is the simplest one, or you can even start up with MySQL series. And the point is like you get free advice. You can contact me anytime you want. And to stay tuned, I would suggest you to subscribe the channel, because I will be posting up a lot of videos in upcoming years, and so that you do not lose a track of it, you can subscribe it. And I would also want a help from you, so that like the purpose I am building this up comes true. So please do share amongst your friends, so that they know about something like this and they know that they can contact me directly. So this brings up this particular webinar to the end. So please do let me if you have any questions. Mayank Mittal. Any questions, please? No? Okay. So I think that I am done with it. At last, I would just like to share a few links. I will just open up Internet Explorer and let me open up my LinkedIn profile, and let me open up my Facebook profile as well. Let me open up my YouTube channel. So ma'am, from where can I send a text message on Zoom?
So chat box you can share.
And more. I don't see it, ma'am, anywhere. Maybe I'm missing something out. Oh, share. So you did send me a text, right?
Okay.
So we people usually do not use Zoom a lot. We usually use Teams meeting. So that is something which is maybe costlier than Zoom and even much more mature than Zoom.
Sir, I sent you a text message. Please check that in chat.
I will just stop sharing first. So I got the text message. now.
Okay, we can do one thing, sir.
I got the text message. Give me a second, please. So I have just shared up my LinkedIn profile and this is the channel link. And the last one is my Facebook profile. So please feel free to reach me out anytime you want. And now over to you, Archana ma'am.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. This was a very encouraging presentation you have presented here. And on behalf of my complete JC family and everyone presented here, I took the opportunity to thank you for this enlightening presentation and providing a roadmap to the students towards their career orientation. You have
Thank you, ma'am.
shared your valuable views on how to choose and then chase a career. That was very important for the students. And you have also guided the students about the product-based or service-based companies. And it's really helpful for the students. I
Thank you,
again
ma'am.
thank you for taking time to us today. And this is very important topic for career building. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Same here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.